I'll start with Carrie since you're first on my screen.
All right, thank you very much. All right, gentlemen, good morning. So going into this world, if you could pick a curse fighting style for yourself, what would you pick and why? And it could exist in the world already, or you can make it up.
Oh, that's a good one. We were actually just talking about how the whole curse concept is really interesting. I personally, I was just telling Lex this. I would love to see a cursed fighting style based on like trolling tweets or some sort of trolling social media cursed content. You know what I mean? Like if you share a cursed meme, like that's an attack. I would love to see that in like a future season of Jujutsu Kaisen. I think that would be excellent.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I was joking too, saying, the late for work cursed. But late for work curse. But Suguru has the curse manipulation technique, which allows him to exercise curses from non-sorcerers, and I think that's a pretty cool one because you can really accumulate a lot of different cool curses that way, especially if you can manipulate them and have them at your disposal at any time. So that's pretty cool.
The bad part is you have to eat all of them first, and I'm sure they don't taste very good. So, yeah.
Gobbling down curses, as it were.
It's a full-time job.
Nice, thank you.
All right, next question from Big Gold Belt Media.
Hi, Najee Chambers here, Big Gold Belt Media. So whether you two have read the manga or not, were you at all particularly excited, and did you have any input in terms of this relationship between Ghetto and Gojo being completely fleshed out in a way that the fans and the audience have not seen?
I have tried to keep up with the manga, and yeah, crazy stuff happens. We won't talk about it here, but I've kept up enough with it to understand, at the very least, the nature of the relationship between these two characters, and it's really sad, the development of this this pair. But I wanted to talk about a thing, but I don't know if that's a spoiler. I had a couple of opportunities in this movie to weigh in on how like one or two things should be handled between the two characters, and I think it came out pretty well. But yeah, before I went into this movie, I definitely read up on the nature of the relationship, and I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of where it's going and where it came from, and all that good stuff. What about you, Lex?
Yeah, I have to say ditto on that. I'm not, I hadn't really been as deep into the manga before the movie started, but as soon as I found out that we were doing this movie, I got into the study that actors do. We go in and we start looking at the characters and seeing what their relationships are and what they want out of, life, etc. And I thought it was fascinating how much the relationship changed, how it kind of like pivoted several times over the course of the story arc. And, I think throughout the course of the film, you get to feel how deep the relationship really is and how long it's been going. And so I really, I loved that about the story arc. And it makes, the dialogue was great, and it was easy to act into that relationship as well. So yeah, I really admire the depth of relationship that these two characters have.
Thank you so much.
All right, next question from Otakus and Geeks, Nadia Martinez.
Hi guys, Gothamgeekgirl here, Nadia from Otakus and Geeks.
Hi, Nadia.
I guess expanding upon that a bit, Gojo's both feared, admired, and he's a fan favorite. His character is extremely confident, but he still has a sense of morality, even though he could be cocky. Were there any primary differences in handling the character in the prequel as opposed to the main anime?
I don't know if there's too much of a personality difference aside from the bandage on his face, but he's still trying to find his own look at this point in the series. But Gojo has always held fairly consistently onto a certain type of personality, and that comes from just being born with a certain amount of jujutsu privilege. He's not had to work very hard to be very good at everything in his entire life, and that develops a certain sort of personality. But I do think it speaks to his character that despite having all this crazy unkiltered power, he still shows this kind of human, sort of caring for not only his students but for Geto, for sure, his best friend. And you can see that deep down, I think Gojo's just kind of a lonely guy, and he does want friends. And that's what reassures me about the character. Sometimes people look at Gojo and be like, wow, that guy is just like a psychopath. And maybe a little, but he's a psychopath with a heart of gold.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next question from Anthony from the Digital Fix.
Hi, Anthony from Digital Fix. My question is for Lex. In the movie, we get see a little bit more of Suguru and kind of how his general story and history within the wider Jujutsu canon. And I'm wondering if we could, in your mind, how is Suguru that we meet here different from the one we meet in the series?
Well, without any spoilers, he has sort of a different frame of existence, let's put it that way, in the series as opposed to this film. I think he's at a point in his own, he's a very powerful curse manipulator, and he's very idealistic, and his motives are based basically on his personal ideology, and so those change quite a bit during the course of this film, or the course of, flashbacks and different things that happen in this film, which are really cool. But, I don't want to give a spoiler because there is a spoiler related to this character, but that is the main difference between this film and the series, is like the chain of events that happen kind of near the end of the film create the distinction as to why it's different in the series. I'll have to leave it at that.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, back to Carrie at Fanversity Shannon.
All right, kind of bouncing off the previous question and an earlier one, what was it like of the experience going back into the booth and getting to do a prequel? So it's not continuing the journey of your characters. It's like, let's look back in time.
I'll start if that's all right. I think it's really great to see the background of where these characters developed from. You can see, like I mentioned, the ideology, that's a big part of both characters as to kind of what their belief systems were. And it's kind of neat to go back in time to see how those were developed and then how they play out in the course of the storyline and the relationships between, especially Gojo and Suguru. Yeah, I think it's, for me as an actor, it's very cool to see like where did they come from? What is the impetus of their development?
Yeah, for me, like we said before, Gojo has this sort of very consistent ideology and personality about him that hasn't really changed much from when he was a child. So as an actor, it was a slightly easier process because he's still on the same stuff he's about when he's in the show, so not much there has changed. But the one thing is, it's still, since it is a little earlier in the timeline, it's a little more sensitive in regards to that relationship with Suguru, so a lot of nerves are still raw, and whenever his character comes up in the conversation, obviously Gojo is very, very affected, and that's saying something because he's not affected by basically anything. It's the only thing really that he's affected by throughout the entire course of this film. So that was interesting difference from the show. Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you.
Great. Next is Najir.
All right, so there's always a extra bit of excitement whenever a popular series reaches the box office. It's always, things are heightened and taken to the next level, especially in the animation department. And of course, spoiler free here, but was there any particular scenes that you all watched that just really stood out to you, that you were just kind of mind blown of seeing this, come to life?
I mean, elephant in the room, the animation is just so beautiful. I mean, like every action scene was like, You know, so yeah, I did not suffer throughout the film. Let's just put it that way. It was very much a treat for the eyes. I thought all the past stuff, like the little mini flashbacks between our characters, Gojo and Suguru, were really interesting. That for me at least, because I'm very invested in both these characters' histories. I thought the handling of the way this movie handles the protagonist, I thought was really interesting, because it's almost like you have this horror monster duo as like the main character. And I've just never really seen anything like that before in at least, you know, shonen battle anime. So I thought that was really interesting. There was a lot of things I loved about this movie. I could go on.
Yeah, I thought the direction was great in the film. I thought that the music was also really perfect for every scene, and it just
so good.
Complemented every frame of the animation and the way it was directed. You know, Sunghoo Park did a fabulous job with the entire thing, and it was yeah, it was just a delight for the eyes and ears. You know, you could, you know, and the performances, I was just telling Kaiji that, you know, I thought his performance was fantastic in the film, and I'm sure also the rest of the cast, it was just beautifully cast, and it was well performed and well directed, and it was like one of those movies where while you're watching, it absorbs you into the film, and you're like, wow, that went by fast. It was, you know, hour and a half, 2 hours, or 105 minutes, I think it runs. And it was literally like, it went by in a flash, and I was enthralled and captivated by the story and the characters. So that was a real plus for me, because, you know, you never know. Sometimes you can be sitting on a hard-boiled egg, you know, when it comes to movies. You can be like, God, great characters, but the movie didn't pull it off. This is the opposite. This is like, the movie pulled it off in every single way you can, both animation, musically, and the dub was fantastic. I mean, it was like, I didn't blink. It was just like watching a great, perfect film. So yeah, I was pretty impressed.
And as usual, Panda was immaculate.
Yeah.
as usual.
Lex, I knew you was going to bring up music, and you're absolutely right. I had to add it right away. I was like,
Oh,
this is going to help.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll be getting up a lot easier in the mornings now.
Right. That's right.
Thank you.
All right, Nadia, go ahead.
This question is for Lex. Geto's the main antagonist in both the movie and the original anime. He has a superiority complex, and he kind of strayed down a completely different path from Gojo. In your opinion, can you elaborate upon what you think caused his descent into madness?
Well, descent into madness, I don't know if that phrase is quite accurate. You know, like I mentioned earlier, he's very idealistic, and he really, his entire life runs off of his own personal ideology. So when he began, like when he was in Jujutsu High, he had this idealistic quality that was about protecting non-sorcerers. And then after a variety of things that he experienced, that shifted completely, where he wasn't sure of the value of that sense of ideology. And so that's really the path that he took. It wasn't necessarily that he, you know, went into madness suddenly. It was more about how he was disappointed in the human race, more or less, and just disappointed in all the beliefs that he had and he was holding so strong to. They were all, you know, crushed before his very eyes, and he was disappointed so badly that he took a different path. And so I think that's really the change, the pivot point that he had as a character, is that his disappointment was so great in the people he was protecting that he felt like, what's the use?
Yeah, in that sense, I feel like he's kind of comparable to Magneto. Like, he has like good ideals.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think deep down, like, he does have a good heart, and he does, you know, feel friendship and loyalty and love and that sort of thing. But it's clouded by his beliefs and just how disappointed he was overall in, like I said, in the people he was literally standing to protect.
It's a broken heart. He has a heart.
Yeah, it's a heart, but it's a broken heart. Self-inflicted broken.
Thank you, Lex.
Sure, thank you.
All right, go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, You've both been involved with quite a few number of kind of these anime movies, because you were also involved with the Demon Slayer movie, and I'm just wondering, like, do you have a different style of preparation when you know you're going to be setting into something feature length, especially now that these things are getting kind of wider theatrical releases as well?
Well, I mean, if there is material to watch beforehand, of course, I would love to get my hands on it. In a lot of cases in these films, we can't watch it beforehand, just because, because it's so new, or because we're doing simulcasting. So more or less, we have to rely mostly on our prior knowledge of the IP, and we have to rely on the director to know, if we have to rely on them to know what's happening in the film and all that stuff. So yeah, for every single thing I do, if the materials are available in advance, always 100%, I'll look at them. But in many of these cases, it's just we can't get them.
Yeah, I would agree on that. Whenever we have the opportunity to review material beforehand, we do, and it's very helpful. But also the director helps us a lot with what the character motivations are, and they are entrenched into the story, and they know all the different arcs of each character, so they're better able to help us navigate, especially if it's a big feature or something, that have multiple storylines that are intertwining throughout. Yeah, so and if we're fans of the IP already, then maybe we'll have a little extra background knowledge, and that helps. But if we're not, if we have no knowledge prior, then we come in and we do our job as actors, and we collaborate with the production team, the directors, the producers that have specific needs, and we get the job done. And hopefully people like what we bring to it.
The good news is it's nothing, even if we don't have that material in advance, it's nothing different than what we do basically every day. Well, we never get stuff in advance. I don't know about you, Lex, but like most of the days you just show up for work, and they tell you that day what you're sort of working on and what the character is, what the script looks like. So if we don't get the material in advance, that's okay. We've been doing it for long enough now that we can sort of go in and just sort of, cold read, cold perform, and rely on the director. Business as usual.
Well said. Yeah, with anime and foreign dubbing, you do come in as the actor, and you're prepared to just be a blank slate that will fill up the moment you get there. Like you do, like you said, cold performances. But one thing that's nice that we get to do often is we get to see the Japanese performance, not to mimic it, but to understand what the emotional content is that underlies the performance, so that we can connect to that emotional content and bring our performance to life with it.
Great. Sorry to interrupt, but that's our time. So we're moving on to the next roundtable. Thank you so much.